I've been to many family reunions in my life, but this one will always stick with me. It wasn't the usual fun-filled gathering of relatives. There were no jokes, no laughter, no kids running around playing. It was all overshadowed by something I never thought I'd experience. Something beyond explanation. Something that shouldn't have happened. It started innocently enough. My aunt, Helen, had been planning the reunion for months. She decided to host it at her house in the old part of town, an inherited family home that had been passed down from generation to generation. The house had seen its share of years. It creaked, groaned, and had a musty, aged smell to it. But to us, it was always home. The old photographs of our ancestors lined the walls, and the heavy, ornate furniture was like something out of a past century. The reunion was supposed to be a celebration of family, of sharing memories and reconnecting. And while we all gathered in the living room, everything seemed normal at first, at least until I noticed something odd. The back door, which led to the basement, was cracked open, though it wasn't something anyone had mentioned. I knew the basement was off limits, something about it being unsafe and filled with old boxes, relics of a time long gone. Dinner went on without any issues, with everyone enjoying the food, exchanging stories, and catching up. It wasn't until late in the evening when things started to feel off. I'm not sure what triggered it, but I had an unsettling feeling the whole evening, like I was being watched. Perhaps it was the shadows that filled the house, or the strange creaking of the floorboards that echoed from somewhere deep within the house. But I wasn't the only one to feel it. Around midnight, the house fell into an eerie silence. The older relatives went to bed, and most of the younger ones retired to the front room for games and music. I found myself standing near the old portrait of the family ancestors that hung in the hallway. My eyes kept drifting toward it, noticing the way the light seemed to flicker across it, making the faces in the picture seem almost alive. I had always felt uneasy about it, but tonight, something about it was different. The portraits of the family members, whose faces had always seemed welcoming, now felt hollow, like they were watching us. That's when I heard a faint sound coming from upstairs. It was soft at first, barely audible like a whispering voice or the creak of an old door opening. But it grew louder, and I soon realized it was coming from the attic. The noise was so distinct, it was almost like footsteps. I tried to shake it off, thinking it was just the house settling or the wind moving through the creaky old wood, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself walking upstairs toward the attic door. It was an old wooden door, weathered by time and neglect, with a rusty handle that looked like it hadn't been turned in years. My hand hovered over the handle for a moment, unsure whether I should open it, but my legs moved on their own. With a hesitant turn, the door creaked open, revealing the dark, musty attic beyond. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the faint smell of mothballs lingered. Old furniture was stacked up in the corners, forgotten keepsakes from past generations. But something caught my eye. A small chest, tucked away in the far corner of the room. It looked ancient, the wood dark and scratched with age. There was something about it, though. Something about the way it seemed to draw me in. I approached the chest, my heart racing, and knelt down in front of it. The chest was locked, but there was a small keyhole, one that appeared to have been untouched for years. I noticed the key was sitting on a nearby shelf, as if waiting to be used. It seemed strange, as though everything in that room was placed deliberately, as if it had all been arranged for me to find. But I didn't question it. I took the key, unlocked the chest, and opened it. Inside, there was a collection of old family heirlooms, a few dusty books, silverware, and an old pocket watch. But there was one item that stood out above the rest, a small, delicate locket. The locket was intricately designed, with a strange engraving on the front. It was beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. It was warm to the touch, almost too warm. As I held it, a sudden flash of images ran through my mind. visions of the past, of people long gone. I saw an image of a woman, her face pale and gaunt, standing in a dark room. She was holding the same locket, her hands trembling as she clutched it tightly. Her eyes were filled with terror, and I could hear her whispering a name. My name. Suddenly, I felt an overwhelming chill run through me. The room grew colder, and I could hear faint whispers, as if a voice was calling out to me from deep within the house. I dropped the locket, backing away, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had to leave. I quickly gathered myself, bolting out of the attic, slamming the door behind me. I rushed back downstairs, my breath heavy, my mind racing. The reunion was still going on, but the atmosphere had completely changed. It felt tense, like something was wrong, like a presence was in the room that no one could see. I wanted to leave, to get out of the house, but something held me there. As I glanced around, I noticed my Uncle Thomas, who had always been quiet and reserved, standing near the old portrait in the hallway. His eyes were fixed on it, and he seemed almost mesmerized by it. It was the same look I had seen on the faces of people who had visited the house before. The same look I had seen when they talked about the family curse, the strange disappearance of family members from generations past. No one had ever spoken about it openly, but there were rumors, whispers in the family that something evil had taken root in that house long ago, something tied to the locket I had just found. I didn't say anything to anyone that night. The reunion ended without much incident, but something had changed. The locket, the whispers, the eerie presence in the house, it all weighed heavily on me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had been set in motion. Years have passed since that reunion, but the memory of that night still lingers. The house was eventually sold, and the new owners did extensive renovations. But sometimes, when I think back to that reunion, I wonder about the heirloom I found in the attic. I wonder if it still resides somewhere, locked away, waiting for the next person to find it. And I can't help but wonder if the curse that haunted that house was ever truly broken, or if it still remains, buried deep within the walls, waiting to claim its next victim.